The Volkswagen Taigun has always stood out as a solid, sporty, and a sophisticated mid-size SUV. 5 years after its launch, Volkswagen has given it a midlife makeover. The question is, can the 2026 Taigun stand tall against its new competition? Let's find out. What we are driving here is the 1-liter 3-cylinder turbo-petrol engine. Mated to this is an all-new 8-speed torque converter automatic. Codenamed AQ300, this unit replaces the outgoing version's 6-speed torque converter automatic. Since this is probably the biggest mechanical upgrade in this Taigun, we thought let's do things a little bit differently this time around. So, we've tanked up the car, we've reset the trip meter, and we're off from Jaipur all the way to Chandigarh. That's a distance of about 440 kilometers, and we'll do a mileage test. So stay tuned. Right off the bat, this transmission feels smooth and very likable. If you're familiar with the outgoing Taigun 1-liter automatic, you'd know that the creep function was a bit too eager. The suddenness with which it accelerated from a standstill when you eased off the brake pedal felt a bit unnatural and would take the uninitiated by surprise. In this car, however, the creep function is a lot more manageable and a lot more natural. That said, the initial roll-on is still more eager than some of its rivals, and you still feel a bit of that suddenness, especially when you engage reverse. From there on to, this gearbox shifts ratios very seamlessly and very smoothly. The ratios are short and closely stacked, and as a result, you'll see the gearbox move up or down gears quite often when you are on the move. But the good thing is that you don't really feel the shifts. They are very seamless. If you're an enthusiast, you'll like the fact that this AQ300 gearbox feels very reactive at the lightest throttle inputs, which means that every time you flex your right foot, the gearbox won't hesitate to downshift 1, 2, or even 3 gears at a time to get a move on. This enthusiasm from the gearbox can't be good for efficiency, as we soon realize. The fuel efficiency readout has been hovering between 14 and 14.5 kilometers per liter. Now, even though the roads are smooth and we're cruising at a steady pace of 100 kilometers per hour in top gear, the fuel efficiency readout isn't very impressive. I suspect its shorter gearing does hamper its highway fuel efficiency. To put things into perspective, while cruising at 100 km per hour in top 8th gear, the engine is spinning at around 2000 RPM. Now, had the engine been spinning at 1600 or 1700 RPM, fuel efficiency certainly would have been better. But we'll know just how efficient the Taigun really is on the highway at the end of this video. While we didn't get a chance to test the engine's 0 to 100 km per hour time, we recently timed the mechanically identical Kushaq with the same transmission and engine and learned that its acceleration times were quicker than the outgoing 6-speed automatic versions. Engine refinement, however, could have been better. It sounds thrummy and occasionally you can feel the vibrations on the seat, especially at idle. Like before, the Taigun chassis feels taut and the handling feels very predictable. And quite honestly, it feels like one of the sportiest in its segment. Appreciably, its high-speed stability is outstanding. This car feels rock solid and planted at triple-digit speeds. On the flip side though, its suspension feels stiff-kneed and a bit jarring at low speeds. You will feel road shocks from those sharp bumps a lot more than you would, let's say, in a Duster or in a Tata Sierra. The Taigun steering is direct, but it is on the lighter side. It certainly makes the Taigun easy to drive and very manageable around town. I would have wished a bit more steering weight at triple-digit speeds. Volkswagen has added rear disc brakes with the 1.5 TSI version. However, the 1-liter TSI version only gets rear drum brakes. Has that really impacted braking performance? No, it hasn't. Braking still remains strong and confidence-inspiring. Volkswagen has silently upgraded the 2026 version's air conditioning system. This variable displacement unit feels a lot more effortless in the way it cools down the cabin. When you enter a hot cabin and click on the auto mode, unlike before, it doesn't go to full fan speed, it goes to only half fan speed. And I must say this new unit is quite effective too. Another special mention goes to these seats. Now they are really well shaped, they are very supportive, and their ventilation function, even though it has just 2 fan speeds, is very effective. The dashboard gets a new silver panel running across, which nicely complements the black and the light grey color scheme. However, on a sunny day like this, you can see the silver bits reflection on the left window, and that is a bit distracting. I quite like the new digital instrument cluster. You have multiple viewing options, and the fonts are crisp, clear, and very easy to read. Now, while the touchscreen remains the same as the outgoing versions, the software has been updated, and this new software remains slick, and the touch sensitivity is very nice. What I didn't like, however, is that certain functions, as an example, the volume function, requires a minimum of 3 steps to operate, and that is not very user-friendly. Volkswagen could have also taken this opportunity to upgrade its reverse camera. The resolution still remains very poor. And while the company has introduced front parking sensors with this version, a 360-degree camera is still missing. With that, here's a look at all the features that the Taigun offers. New to the Taigun is a panoramic sunroof. Unlike its Skoda sibling, this version doesn't get a rear seat massage function. Even though that isn't something most buyers would miss, kit like a 360-degree camera, rear sunblinds, and ADAS are features that would bring the Taigun at par with the competition. Rear seat space hasn't changed, and like before, the seat is comfortable for 2 adults. A third, however, would certainly be a squeeze here. What's nice is that the roof is scooped, which doesn't affect headroom for tall passengers. Even its boot remains unchanged. The Taigun's 385-litre boot space might seem the smallest on paper. However, in reality, it can carry a lot more luggage than some of its rivals, which have a higher boot capacity rating. In fact, it can carry up to 6 cabin suitcases very easily. And before concluding this review as well as the mileage test, let me run you through all the design updates. The 2026 Taigun design changes are largely centered in the front. It is familiar yet very distinct. The front grille now is slimmer. The headlamps are sleeker. Now these are new multifunction LED units, and these also feature a light bar which runs across the width as well as illuminates the Volkswagen logo, similar to what we've seen in the Volkswagen Taigun, its elder sibling. The bumper has been redesigned too, and there are chrome slats as well that add a bit of bling to its styling. Also new this time around are the 17-inch alloy wheels. Its 188mm ground clearance remains unchanged, and so do the rest of its dimensions, which means that the Taigun continues to remain the smallest car in its class. Like the front, the rear profile features a revised bumper, redesigned tail lamp elements, as well as sweeping turn indicators, all of which add freshness to its design. Finally, after driving this car for 448.8 kilometers as per the trip computer, we made it to Chandigarh with a moving average speed of 68 kilometers per hour. Before tanking up once again, let me also mention that throughout this drive, there were 2 persons on board, and we periodically swapped driving duties to negate any possible driver error. Its boot was filled with luggage, and the aircon was set to 22 degrees in full auto mode. And now, the moment of truth. The Taigun consumed 32.19 liters of fuel, which resulted in a real-world highway efficiency of 13.94 kilometers per liter. With taller gearing, its efficiency could have certainly improved. As things stand, don't expect much higher numbers with the 1-liter automatic. Before moving on, here's a look at the price range of the 2026 Taigun. Interestingly, the entry-level Skoda Kushaq Classic Plus is not only more affordable, but it also has a lot more standard features such as a single-pane sunroof and alloys, which the base Taigun misses. As a result, it is the Skoda that comes across as better value for money. And now, time for the verdict. So despite its revised styling, enhanced feature list, and its new 8-speed automatic transmission, the 2026 Taigun has only inched forward. Unfortunately though, this update isn't substantial enough to keep pace with the rapidly advancing competition. If you look at it, the competition is a lot more rounded in comparison. So in summary, yes, the Taigun is still the driver's pick in this segment, and if driving pleasure is top on your priority, then and only then does the Taigun make a strong case.